Welcome to our spoiler discussion of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. And here we're going to be talking more into detail of the final film in the Skywalker saga of the 9 movies that have come out. And this time we're going to go into things that we didn't cover in our non-spoiler review. For those of you who haven't seen it, you're welcome to check out our non-spoiler review of it. Yeah. And we're going to go into more detail. So the movie opens with, I gotta admit, with pretty much a pretty haunting fucking scene where we get introduced to actually seeing Kylo Ren, who's on this planet, and he discovers this, he's like slaughtering motherfuckers left and right.
Yeah, it's like this planet has like the stone to find Palpatine. Yeah. And it, like a complaint, this is a complaint, it just jumps so far ahead. And why was he already initially known about that? No one knew. They failed to talk about this whole movie. That's why it hurts a little bit. But anyways, back into the story. Yeah, he goes and he gets the stone. He goes after the stone because he knows the stone is a key to open up the Sith temple. Mm-hmm. And we start out, and I will admit the scene is pretty badass because Kylo Ren is just slaughtering these people. Yeah. Just killing them. Just fucking left.
He's like right. Pissed. He's like slicing them everywhere
by himself.
Yeah.
And he gets the key, and then he goes to this planet called Exodus or something like that. Pretty much is considered the Sith temple. It is where they all live, all the Siths.
Pretty much, yeah. And he ends up going to this really dark and like black looking area,
and it's all lightning strike
and everything, where it's pretty much the Valley of the Sith, and he ends up going there and he hears like the voices inside of his head. At first, it's like he's like hearing like different voices, like. He hears Darth Vader's voice.
Well, he hears
like Snoke.
Yeah.
It's like, and then he hears Darth Vader's voice, and he hears everyone, and then he hears the Emperor finally. He's like, "I've been the voice inside.
I've been the puppet." Then we find out that Snoke was a puppet
all along, and that he was the true person behind it.
And he pretty much hiding his disguise because at this point now everybody knows who Palpatine is, and if his true self was ever revealed that he was alive, all hell would break loose. So I think that's probably why he used Snoke. So, but anyways, we get to this, and this is where he makes a deal with Kylo Ren to kill her because he says there's greater danger if she stays alive. So his task is to wipe her out,
and this is now becoming the final order to bring him the Empire for Kylo Ren.
Yep.
Because Kylo Ren's original plan was to fucking kill the Emperor and basically take everything. Yeah. But the Emperor persuades him into pretty much bringing Rey or killing Rey in order to basically give his own empire to him and take over. And so, and I'll admit, like this opening shot where it shows like him going inside, seeing the Emperor and stuff. Just the shadows and stuff, where it does the close up of the decaying Emperor.
Because you remember he died in the end of Return Jedi.
Yeah.
So he's all like decaying, like he's all like bones, and he's all like just fucked up looking. And he's basically telling him his task, and pretty much we get into the storyline where we meet where Rey is, and that's where she's sitting there, meditating, kind of still learning and training. And Leia's training her, and she's the master, and she's training her how to be a successful Jedi.
Yeah, which we'll leave it on. We'll get more into that because that becomes a huge plot point here later on. But like we're saying on regular non-spoiler, it's great to see Carrie Fisher playing her one last time. Even if it is kind of unused footage of Force Awakens, it's still great to see her presence on screen.
Exactly.
And she's training her all that, and then we discover that the other guys, Finn and Poe and Chewbacca and all
they're on the Millennium
Falcon going on. They're doing they're going on their journey somewhere, and they're coming back.
Yeah, it's not really specified, but you got to think we're still at the current war with the First Order. So you're led to believe they were just doing missions, trying to fight some First Order motherfuckers, and we get an epic chase sequence where they're actually getting caught at this one place, and they're pretty much they're fighting the fighter jets.
Yeah. And then they pretty much have an escape from them. And what's cool about this, something I never seen in a Star Wars film, they're actually going from different like light speed to different
dimensions.
Not different like galaxies.
Yeah, it's because they're using hypersonic.
Yeah, which I thought was actually pretty cool because we haven't seen this kind of like hyperspeed before in a Star Wars movie.
Like literally one button, they shoot like fucking Star Trek where it does the light thing.
Yeah.
And they're like already there in someone else's planet.
Yeah.
And then they keep doing it again, and he pretty much fucks the Millennium Falcon up, and they're pretty much, we go back to the base where Leia and all the people are, have their base at, and they're trying to fix their whatever, and then we get this like really weird cutscene where we get Kylo Ren making it back to his ship, and they start welding his mask that he smashed in the last one back together, and he's looking pretty much at his his grandfather Vader mask, and you can kind of hear the whole breath thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways.
And then as it goes along, we discover that according to, because we also find out that there's a spy that's in the First Order that they're learning about, that inside that's been giving them information. And it prompts Rey and them to pretty much go after looking for what's called this stone or whatever that will lead to the return to Palpatine.
Yeah,
because 3PO
is the snake, or what do you call it, the mole revealed that Palpatine is alive.
Yeah, and
he's been calling the shots, and they let them know.
And we discovered that C-3PO has information leading to this planet where they can find traces of this fighter jet that was from the Sith.
Yeah. And
they end up agreed to go there. And they get to this planet that I'll admit that it's very reminiscent of some of the other planets like Tatooine and all that.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there's actually someone they come across. Surprisingly, it's Lando. He actually gets revealed as this mystery man that...
it's like this cool village. It's just like any other Star Trek,
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Creating like different like creatures and stuff. They're on this planet with these creatures, and Lando saves the day, and pretty much they know him. He's a legend too, and he pretty much guides them out of the way because their Millennium Falcon gets captured by stormtroopers.
Yeah, and then when this is happening, we end up having them, having to go back and find.
They get sucked in that sand thing.
And then they discover that there's like this. This is the first time that we start to notice something that's never been explored in a Star Wars film, at least that I've seen, where they come across this like worm thing that's whatever. It's kind of like this sandworm looking thing.
And it's killed people. That keeps going under there because that's where they have to get the thing. It's being guarded by a big giant snake thing.
Yeah, but the thing that threw me off was that was actually surprising was Rey ends up basically healing them with her force powers. Which that right there, that's never been done in a Star Wars movie. That's always been in the video games. Some of the video games have always used the force power heal because I think for purposes as far as going with the vulnerability with the story and everything, I can see why a long time they probably didn't want to use that technique.
Or else everybody could use it. So I can see why they did it, and basically her doing that for that little snake thing, because I guess it's led to believe that there's so many people that's attempted to get this item, but the snake kills everybody. But it looked like it had like such a brutal battle before, and it's injured. So when she did that, it's like it gained respect. And left them alone. Yeah,
which I'm actually I thought it was cool that they finally brought in Force Heal for that.
Yeah.
But they end up discovering that also that the Force Order are on their own. And this is also, we didn't bring this up with our non-spoiler review. Remember how in Force Awakens when it was revealed that the Knights of Ren were with Kylo Ren and everything?
Yeah.
Well, they were basically unexplored until now because now Kylo Ren now gets his own set of Knights of Ren to go with them on these, which is cool, but at the same time, they're kind of underused.
Yeah, they are underused because I believe they're supposed to be some pretty bad motherfuckers.
They are, but...
and bad enough to where the stormtroopers won't even fuck with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they're very like, underused.
Yeah, like, they're supposed to be almost on par with Sith, up there. Like, the worst of the worst up to Sith.
They're basically the equivalent of those Inquisitors of Darth Vader from, like, the Rebels TV show and the Star Wars Fallen Order
Inquisitors,
game.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, where they're, like, the side, like, they're not Jedi, but they're, like, or they're not Sith, but they're, like, on, like, they have, basically, they're badasses, But anyway, She ends up going back to the Falcon, or they end up going back to the Falcon and everything, and then we discover that Kylo Ren is there, and they basically have that scene like you see in the trailer where she's basically getting ready and she's in the desert, and this was a great shot too, where he's like speeding and she like does this black flip and she slices it over. Yeah, that was fucking cool.
And then it ends up crashing, and the guys, Poe and them, are trying to get the ship started to get the fuck out of there, and upon doing that, when they did that, there's just pretty much tug of war. Well, Chewie decides he has the item in his hand, decides to go checking around because they're trying to get Ren out of the way because Ren's going to get hurt, and that's when Chewie ends up getting captured by stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And there's this pretty much scene where Kylo Ren gets out of the wreckage and get hurt him, and they're playing pretty much a tug of war with this ship that's got Chewie on it.
Yeah.
And the item that gets to Palpatine, and pretty much they do this tug of war thing, and
the Force.
You see suddenly out of nowhere you see lightning bolts like Palpatine come out of fucking Rey's hands, and it blows the ship up, and you think Chewie is dead.
Yeah,
which I was like, whoa, they killed Chewie.
Yeah.
And this is where I get another complaint while we're on the topic. They finally end up to where she escapes with them, and they're assuming Chewie is dead, which is pretty sad. But then the problem with Abrams is whenever they reveal something or they do something, the next following scene they rush the answer.
Yeah.
And that's one of my problems with this, because Chewie is actually alive in the next fucking scene.
Yeah.
It's like
there was no time to breathe into it.
You could really dig deep into our souls and let us cry and fuck with us so hard, and then reveal it later. But no, the problem is they reveal it right away for you.
Yeah, which I guess is a good thing, but at the same time, it's like it becomes a structural problem where it's jumping ahead too much.
Yeah, jumping ahead. But anyways, they take off with Chewie as a prisoner, and they decide to go and take off the planet when they can, and no one's really pursuing them.
Yep, and then basically after that, Rey discovers that they end up having to go to yet another planet, which can lead them to more traces. And then they end up going to like this place that Poe ends up discovering that this girl is at. It's this girl that she's kind of like a bounty hunter-ish type.
She looks like a Mandalorian.
She looks like a Mandalorian kind of armor and stuff. Well, not really armor, but like the same type of like suit and everything that's similar to it, and they end up going here to it, and this scene kind of reminded me of something like it was in like Russia or something, because it was all snowy and all that.
Yeah,
it's got a great cinematography look to it.
Either that or it looks like something you would see up in Tibet near Mount Everest or some shit.
Yeah. But it was, they end up going there and they discover that this girl, like that girl they come across, has a way to bypass the blockade for the First Order.
First Order, because they're blocking it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much they got it's impenetrable to get around now.
Yeah, and then she ends up handing him
well, first she was going to turn him in.
Yeah.
And while this is going on, the fucking First Order is still going by planet, just wrecking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically,
she decides to change, and they find out that the answers to the medallion, because the medallion or the knife thing ends up going missing.
Yeah.
But Chewie, they think it's gone forever. CP3O reveals that he actually remembered everything.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, they unfortunately have to erase all memory.
Because he has, in order to do it, he has to get input Sith information, because he can't speak Sith.
Sith, and anything Sith related destroys you. And that's basically what it is. He would turn, like, his eyes turn red, like he's going to become a Sith and shit, and then he just dies.
Yeah.
And pretty much revamps into a new person altogether. But they were able to get the information to him, which I love this scene because it was pretty sad, because CP3O has been who he is since even Anakin was little.
Yeah.
To actually look and say, I just want to see my friends one last time. That was a pretty good scene.
That was very heartwarming. It was very, very emotional.
Yeah.
And then they tear him off, and then he turns his eyes red, where he starts speaking Sith, and leads them to the vault that they have to go to.
Yeah.
And then following that, they turn him back on. He's basically brainwashed, where he doesn't have his memories.
Well, he's not brainwashed. He's completely a new person, like a new robot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Never doesn't even know R2-D2 anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they end up leaving from there, and then they have to. While this is going on, they also pretty much have to get into having to save Chewie, and so they end up going to that ship where he's at and everything on the
Well, how do they reveal Chewie was alive?
I'm trying to remember. Shit, what was it? They it was I think it was when it was, well, this is also the scene that we discovered that Hux, the guy that was working for Kylo Ren, he reveals himself to be as part of the mold that was the spy. So we found out that he's actually part of it.
Yeah.
And
the one that Kylo Ren is always talking down to in both movies. And you thought, I mean, you hate the guy in the other movies, but you can also see that, you know, he was treated unfairly by Kylo.
Yeah.
And he basically betrayed him, which I guess you could see predictability on that one since you were being talked down to all the time. He is the mole.
Yeah.
But anyways, he ends up being a mole, and this is where they saved Chewie. Because, they abruptly run into Chewie in there whenever they're going into that ship. And
that's right,
Yeah, and he saves them from getting killed.
Yeah, and then after that, this is where we also see Rey is pretty much getting the dagger from Kylo Ren's area.
And because you remember that Kylo Ren and her go at it.
Yeah, because and then that was a pretty I like the epic kind of battle they go to where they're slicing each other, and it's kind of like what Luke did, where he's like in a hologram kind of thing, where they're not like physically there, but their presence are there.
Their presence are there, but it's a little different with Ren and Rey, because if you remember Last Jedi, they had this special bond where they could talk
to each other,
and they could actually hand each other shit.
Yeah,
in their minds. It's not really hologram.
Well, not hologram, but it's like
something different.
It's like a awakened dream kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's some Freddy Krueger shit.
Yeah.
So basically they end up getting the dagger, battling each other, and then they end up getting the dagger, and then she's having to leave and go to the ship where the Millennium Falcon is, and then this is probably where it gets me right here. Is they're on their way to she's on her way back to go to the Falcon, and we get into the twist that's revealed about Rey. We finally discover who she is. Yeah. Where Ren ends up praising.
Yeah, that was the epic scene where he meets her at the fighter where the jets come in.
Yeah.
And he basically reveals. He goes, "Do you not know who you are?" And he goes, "I'll tell you." And then that's whenever they start revealing that she is actually a balance between she's a Skywalker Jedi and she's a Palpatine's granddaughter. Yeah. Now, the whole Skywalker thing, can't remember because somebody spoke and I couldn't hear that part, but something about her being related to Skywalker, I don't know. I can't picture how that is.
Yeah.
But the Palpatine, she's basically a full-blown Skywalker Jedi and a fucking Sith Palpatine's granddaughter mixed perfectly together. And that explains why she is doing shit that not even Luke can do by himself.
And
that explains the whole lightning.
Yeah, and that also brings into my discussion I had with Last Jedi, where in that review I mentioned that she is basically the balance between the light and the dark. Yeah. That she's basically, in my opinion, I think that she's basically the right balance that we always wanted to see in these Star Wars films.
But now that we're on topic, this is where we can go on with our complaint with the whole Palpatine having a granddaughter.
Yeah, because
they do a quick backstory while they're explaining it, and it shows finally what her mom and dad look like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I overheard that one of them was related to Skywalker.
Yeah, one of them.
How? And when did we fucking learn in the prequels that Palpatine had a son or daughter?
Yeah,
It made
because
no fucking
there was always
sense.
the theory that supposedly Palpatine was the father of Anakin Skywalker, supposedly. But I don't know. I don't really buy that.
It's not because it's supposed to be Pegasus.
Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis, which that's another thing that people have that there was a new theory that came up recently. Supposedly, the reason why Palpatine is back is because supposedly it's not necessarily Palpatine, but it's Darth Plagueis' spirit in like taking over.
Yeah,
or something to do with that.
That's somebody just throwing that storyline in there because it would have been at least somewhat revealed in the end. But
right.
It didn't.
But unfortunately, it's not really answered in the
this
literal
film
sense.
has a lot of problems.
So it has a hard time really explaining it. But that's as far as we know is that she's the granddaughter of Palpatine.
Yeah.
But given for what it is, I still thought it worked, and it made sense why she was.
While we had the flaws for
yeah.
it.
So as she pretty much escapes, and then they end up going on their way to this really to the Emperor's Vault, which, as far as I remember, this location that they go to, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I played it. If you remember in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the one that came out a couple years ago, there was a planet that Luke, where you play as Luke Skywalker, and you go to the Emperor's Vault in that. And I thought it was, I think it was like the same kind of place or whatever. I could be wrong. But we discovered this place they go to is on the moons of Endor. And I was like, oh, look, they're bringing back fucking Endor again. Mm-hmm. And they end up going there, and I gotta admit, it's very, the cinematography with all the rain and stuff, it's, fucking beautiful. Yeah. The way it's all, scattered around. And then we see that the Death Star is right there on the fucking...
Yeah, it's on an ocean,
in
ruins in the ocean. And that's where the other... Like you said, the other key to the vault to get in.
Yeah.
And she realized she has to go over there, and this is where, at the same time, Kylo Ren is pursuing her, and she leaves Poe and them behind because she ain't got time to wait. And while this is going on, Poe and them run into other resistance who used to work for the rebel,
First Order.
First Order as stormtroopers, which gives them this one girl we introduced, which I felt like towards the end they made it seem like she's been part of the journey forever, but it's kind of weird because you just joined it halfway through a movie. But anyways, she's basically was in a different unit similar to Finn's character, and they get close together.
Yeah, which I thought that was...
It's genuine, though.
It is genuine. I'm glad they at least brought some merit with Finn this time, because it seemed like he was a lot more, Well, I mean, he was still on the same level of being sidelined with Last Jedi in this one, but... they don't take up as much time because they're still very more focused in this.
And so she gets into the Death Star and basically goes through the ruins, and then here's another nostalgia part where the Emperor sat and all the famous line where we saw Vader die and all that in that same area right there. She walks into, and this is where she finally her and Ren go at it, and basically Kylo Ren is basically trying to convince her to become dark side, because basically a scene before Palpatine told him that if he does not hurry up and change her, he'll kill him.
Yeah.
And so he's pushing it, and they get in this epic, and it's basically on a poster of one where it's in a rain, dark, bleak, oceany Death Star on ruined parts, and they're just going at it. And I think the reason why Leia reacted the way she did was she felt like her son was going to end up killing her.
Yeah.
Killing her. So Leia does a sacrifice, unfortunately, in this scene. And it comes off to pay off, because this is where, with her, along with using her force of her body to resurrect Han for a moment, because unfortunately Han is not a Jedi, so he doesn't get the specialties of being a ghost. So they do a quick thing where I think she used all her energy to bring Han back.
Well, we also had to help her. She helped basically Ren to be distracted as Rey was basically getting the jump on him.
Yeah,
and she killed him.
About to get
well,
to
she
that.
stepped.
Yeah.
Well, it was before the whole Han Solo thing.
Before that, yeah.
Because she stabs
while
him.
she dies and falls over to transfer all that, that's where it confused her own son, and he gets stabbed through the chest. And
by his own lightsaber.
By his own lightsaber, and he was going to die right here. He was actually moments away from dying. Kylo Ren was, and basically she couldn't. When she seen, like, she could, I guess at this part she couldn't really handle watching them die, so she did the whole bringing them, from injury and stuff.
Yeah.
And she also felt the force
Ray ends up doing the force
lead of Leia dying, and I think that Leia might have spoke through her mind that she's dead.
Yeah.
And that made her feel so bad to bring Kylo Ren back, and basically she just walks off out of the rain and just leaves him and gets on the fire jet and leaves. And basically we get Kylo Ren turning around when he hears a voice in Han Solo. His dad is back. And his dad I think the whole Leia force and everything was able to convince him to finally kill Kylo Ren. And that's what he says. He goes, no, my son Ben ain't dead. Kylo Ren is dead. And finally, unlike in Force Awakens where he stabbed his dad and killed him, he actually listened to him this time and threw his fucking saber thing. And from here on out, Kylo Ren is Ben Solo and he's good.
Yeah, and that to me I thought was very outstanding.
And while we're on the topic, now that he's good, let's just say the first half, I do like how they kept it up with him being so relentless and brutal.
Yeah, he was.
Like he has been in every movie.
Yeah, but the fact that he was able to finally redeem himself right here, I think, was great. Now, granted, keep in mind, this was done with Vader, too, but I still give it credit because at this point, I still buy it because Leia had to sacrifice herself in order to bring her own son back. Yeah. So to me, that actually is very strong.
It's sad because we lost Leia now.
Yeah,
she's dead.
Yeah, so I bought that. But anyway, yeah, he ends up becoming good, and then pretty much Rey and all them, they end up discovering where the Emperor is located. And she ends up, she ends up going back to Octo where Luke died, and she ends up wanting to do what he did and basically give up the life of a Jedi. Yeah. And she ends up wanting to give her lightsaber up, and then we get to see Luke come in as a Force Ghost and catch the fucking lightsaber.
Yep.
And he ends up talking to her and saying that, that Leia was always actually a Jedi. It's just that she never told you because she kept it a secret for so long because she didn't want to go full Jedi. Yeah. Because it shows in a flashback, this is pretty cool too, we get to see Luke actually training Leia as a Jedi, which, again, makes sense with Last Jedi, how she was able to, well, not necessarily force fly or anything, but like gravitating in the space. That answers that right there.
And they were able to use good face where they looked young.
Yeah, they were able to de-age
them really good.
Both Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, they did them really good here. But yeah, basically we get that scene where doing that. But yeah.
Yeah, and then they pretty much she ends up, having to go after. Well, this is where Luke actually raises the fucking the X-wing jet or fighter or the X-wing fighter up out of the water where it was at in Last Jedi.
And then he basically said, she was like, "You knew I was a Palpatine all along," and he goes, "Yeah, you're a Palpatine and a Skywalker." And basically, he said that you can
because she felt the spirit.
Well, no, you can. He basically was revealing you because she was scared to fight Palpatine. He goes, because of that, you can kill Palpatine. You're the only one. And while that's going on, while Leia is being put to rest, everybody has had enough of this and said, we're done sitting here and letting them bring the war to us. We're going to bring the war to them this time.
Yeah.
And so they start getting everybody together. Everybody starts planning their stuff, getting in the ships and stuff. She meets them, comes to planet, and she goes, it's time for war.
And that shot where it shows the X-Wing, or her going through the X-Wing and like showing where all the fucking Star Destroyers up, I thought that was like really like fucking beautiful shot right there.
So they find out where exactly it's at. So she's on her way there to confront Palpatine on her own, while Poe and everybody is getting now become generals now, by the way. Poe and Finn take over for Leia. It was in her will for them to take over.
Yeah.
And while she's dead. And So they take over and they call out a full-on blowing war and get every planet in the galaxy known to man together. Let's do it.
And it becomes such an epic fucking climax.
Oh my god, this is where the movie gets at its highest point.
And this is where we get to see like thousands of these fucking Star Destroyers all in the sky and stuff. And they are obliterating the entire resistance.
We get to the cis fucking world, and I'm telling you, if you play the video games and you notice in the movies, the old school movies, one of these are a bitch. One of these are a motherfucker. There's like fucking 1 million of these sons of bitches everywhere.
They're hard to take down. You remember the Battlefront games? Those motherfuckers are hard to take down.
How the fuck are they gonna do that?
Yeah.
And then you start seeing them come with resistant, show up with like pretty much with all they got. They ain't got much really, and they start fighting, and there's big fucking battle of just people just blowing up over the place. The resistance is really losing real bad. And while we get here, now Rey is now officially getting into the vault. And we see Palpatine, and he's pretty much still in his like decay form. Well, at first he's talking to what looked like a million Sith and stuff. And basically he is all of the Sith combined.
Yeah,
is what he is.
There's two things that I also like about it.
Yeah, I like the whole fucking thing.
It reminds me of Hellraiser 2 with like the Dr. Chenard guy.
Yeah, where it's attached to his brain
and he's like moving
attached
around
to his fucking like metal thing.
Yeah,
and it kind of reminded me of like something out of Aliens too. When they did that.
What I also liked is the throne that he's on and everything that he represents. That was actually an original design they had in Return of the Jedi. I know because there was a lot of people that had speculations. Oh, they're just ripping off Game of Thrones. No, this was actually concept art that they had for Return of the Jedi that they finally used. Yeah. So I thought that was cool because it looked badass.
But anyways, it looked like not to compare a funny movie with this, but that section where all those people are looking, it's dark, bleak, and all that. It kind of reminded me of that scene in Coneheads when you're on their planet and they're about to go to war.
Yeah.
Like a gladiator setting thing. But anyways, basically she shows up and he gives her one last opportunity to
kill her.
No, to kill him to gain all the powers, and she would be the most powerful thing known to man. And she can't kill him because there's rules of being a Jedi.
As it's always explained, Jedi can't get revenge. And Jedi can't kill out of spite. They have to basically, that's a self-defense mechanism that they have to go by their code. And so she can't do it, and then basically, while this is happening, Ben ends up coming back and trying to...
Yeah,
and
he follows
her. Yeah. And he ends up fighting the guards of the
Knights of Ren. Too.
Yeah, the Knights of Ren too, and he ends up basically going around and stuff, and she ends up basically putting her lightsaber up. And what I thought was really cool here was something that I thought where she ends up putting it back, and then
they use their mind.
They use their mind. She ends up pulling a fucking lightsaber to him and giving him one
because he couldn't fight he was getting his ass kicked by the Knights of Ren.
But also, we forgot to mention here the so we're not backtracking. She was also given another lightsaber that Leia had that she uses on her own.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
So they were given. Who gives it to her?
Luke.
Luke gives that her.
She finds it where in Luke's area where he was staying at.
So she has both of their lightsabers. Yeah. And anyways, they were able to do this whole mind fuck thing where she's able to transfer it through his brain to him by some force that we've never really seen. It's something new. And basically we get the whole epic battle where, Ben is now there and he shows up with her, standing next to her, and basically she denied killing him, so he's like, now you will die with him.
Because now that both of them are there, he pretty much drains the fucking life out of them.
All their powers.
And
this is when he starts going back to yellow eyes, and he's...
The original...
look of him with his finger. He's not decayed anymore.
Yeah, now he's the original fucking emperor. And then he starts throwing fucking lightning bolts in the sky, and then everyone's getting obliterated. But while this is happening...
No, this part, when this scene happens, that he ends up wiping out pretty much about roughly 80-90% of the resistance in the scene. And there's a scene way earlier, not to backtrack, where they felt like not everybody was going to join forces. And come to find out, whenever all hope is lost, Lando went and gathered pretty much thing that exist.
Yeah.
And it shows up, and there's like 1 trillion of these ships.
Yeah.
And Lando is leading the fucking Millennium Falcon with Chewie, which I think is a proper handoff. The true handoff since Han is dead.
Yes.
Because Lando is Han's best friend, and Lando is the only guy that I know that I can see them two together.
Yeah.
And basically, they start kicking the fucking shit out of them. And then there's a scene where Ben was able to wake up and kind of fight, with what little energy he had left. And he gets pretty much fucking brought up in the air and is fucking thrown out. And he's just pretty much so fucked up at this point. And then Leia is pretty much Rey is looking up as she's watching everybody die, and she's got tears in her eyes. And basically she can hear Luke and everybody telling her, "You can do it."
Yeah, and you're starting to hear other voices too, like Yoda. And I believe I also heard Mace Windu as well, and some other Jedi.
Maybe that is where the Anakin voice came in.
Yeah, that's probably where it was.
But everybody's voice is telling her that you can do it. And this is where she gains enough strength to use both the lightsabers of Luke and Leia's, and then he's shooting lightning at her, because the last lightning would kill her. And basically the force of lightning hitting the Jedi's thing obliterates and melts him.
Yeah, where she's using his own strength to destroy
doing like
him.
an X thing, and they're just sitting there fighting, and she's pushing, and then she pushes it like so hard that it ends up fucking melting him and killing him. And basically Palpatine is officially dead.
Yes.
And then next thing you know, his powers has weakened everything else, and all the destroyers are getting blown away.
Yep.
And everybody starts getting killed.
And we get this emotional conclusion where Ben ends up coming back after... Well, because after doing this, she sacrificed herself.
Yeah, she sacrificed herself.
She basically died after she killed him.
Then she knew it was going to kill her because the power force was just too much for her. And I forgot that. She ends up dying in Ben's arms, and he basically knew that she was always good, and he caused enough havoc. And his parents are dead, and he felt the need that the world needed a better person. So he uses, and what Leia did, he does the same to himself to bring her back, and Kylo Ren, Ben dies.
After kissing her and basically having such a, giving all his strength up like Leia did, and everything. So that was such a really great send off, and it's sad because it's definitely something.
And it's sad because I didn't bring up something earlier, that emotional scene where Chewie found out Leia died now.
Yeah, and he starts agonizing.
Oh my God, like he did with Hans. He lost both of them.
I was like, damn.
Yeah.
He can't catch a break.
Yeah, this movie, and then we end off with a good send-off where she goes to Tatooine, where Luke used to live. And
well, before that, we go back to the Resistance base on that planet, and we get to get a lot of conclusion from characters. We get to see see Lando meet that girl, and he says, "Well, he's like,
who's your family?"
He's like,
I'm thinking that's her dad.
I think that's her dad or her granddaughter or something.
Yep.
And then basically after that, we also get to see that. Someone gives him 3PO gives Chewbacca the little medal that he earned that he was supposed to wear in New Hope. He finally got it, and you got also when they were arriving past when they were coming back, we also get to see the little Ewoks show up.
Yeah, they do kind of similar, but a thing like they did the end of the Return of the Jedi, where everybody's celebrating, and then you see everything blowing up and stuff, and fireworks and stuff. They do kind of like that similar goodbye, and they basically everybody's celebrating. We get the fucking Ewoks, which I'm glad they allowed that, because what I heard was Lucas sold the rights completely, and they didn't own anything Ewoks. Disney did supposedly, because you can't get Ewoks on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But I guess they said yes. They might have put them in. I don't know the rights on that. That's what I heard. But anyways, everybody's celebrating. You kind of get closure where you see like Finn is actually after that girl. That's possibly Lando's granddaughter.
Yeah.
You see the love interests because you get Poe getting with the Mandalorian looking girl.
Yeah.
And You just see everybody like everybody, and it ends up, what our theory was Finn and her and Rey ends up being it was Ben and Rey the whole time.
Yeah. And then basically after that, she ends up going back to and also Rey ends up going back to Tatooine where Luke's house and
where it all began.
And ended from all 3 films. Well,
and she buries all their history of their lifesavers deep down into Earth.
Yeah.
Of Tatooine, not Earth, but Tatooine, and basically this old woman comes up to her and says, "Who are you? I've not seen a person in so many years." And she sees Leia and Luke together in ghost form. I wish this could have had Anakin. I know she never met Yoda, Mace Windu. This could have been an epic closure of everybody.
And maybe Ben, maybe see Ben as
Obi-Wan Kenobi. They could have gotten him. They were supposedly going to try to get Ewan McGregor in a scene in this. Those two him and Hayden were supposed to be in this from somewhere. And I think this would have been a cool scene to see everybody kind of like,
the Force Ghosts.
Yeah, everybody is looking at each other and saying it's all over with.
Yeah.
You can feel the sense that the Sith are done. It's over. Finally.
Yeah.
And basically it ends.
Well, and also we reveal that she has a new lightsaber. Because she has a yellow lightsaber.
She has a yellow,
which, again, we've only seen that kind of lightsaber I've seen in the video games. I've never really seen it too much in the movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, she ends up burying the Luke and Leia's lightsabers in the ground.
Well, I just said
as a way of honoring them, and it pretty much ends where it shows the moons and everything, and she ends up like becoming the next Skywalker.
Yeah.
As it says, the Rise of Skywalker.
Because they ask her, the lady asks, "Who are you?" And she goes, "I'm Rey." And then she looks over and sees them. She goes, "Rey Skywalker." That's the Rise of the Skywalker title.
Yep. And while it is now like
we went more detail with our
other review, but like we said, to go back to our pros, this was to me a good, satisfying conclusion to the entire saga of the main 9 movies. The performances were great. The action was really great, as always is. The story, while it has some questionable things, and there was problem with some of the things.
They resurrect shit, like with the whole Palpatine thing.
Yeah, and some of the continuity, like how he had, kids and stuff, was questionable, and also stuff with Rey, with how, who exactly she was and all that.
A lot of the editing choices in the first half.
Yeah.
It was real bad.
Yeah, and then there was also some things that, missed opportunities that what we were saying could have been explored more.
It's mostly missed opportunities and the whole bitching that I think that maybe they should have waited a while for JJ to get finished with what he's doing to be the last Jedi, to do that one.
Yeah.
Because he had to fix a lot of shit from that, and basically, I think that would have been perfect if he stayed on par doing all 3 films.
Yeah, and then there were some characters they introduced here that were kind of underdeveloped at points.
Characters.
So, but for the overall though, I still think that this was a very solid conclusion. And while I still prefer the other 2 movies in the trilogy currently, I still think that on the story standpoint, I still think it ended pretty well.
Yes, and I'm the same with him on this, and I would give this film a high compelling grade on Film Phreeks meter. The ending, I would so give that a fucking phenomenal ending. I thought that was like a fucking great climax. That's how you do a climax.
And not only for this trilogy alone, but also the other films, I think, worked in such a great closure with that.
Exactly.
And I can't stress enough, I enjoy this movie. While it is very flawed, and I agree to an extent with certain things that are about it, I still think that, the legacy of Star Wars to me will still always live on. Because even though the newer films have their, divided the attention with a lot of fans and everything, for me personally, I still enjoy the films for what they are. And like we're saying, I give the movie a high compelling grade as well.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who have also seen the Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to like, subscribe to our channel, and check out some other reviews here and our website at filmphreeks.com. We'll be seeing you in our next review.
Later.
We'll see you later.